Okay, I am going to try this again. Hello folks, I am coming on today to try the hashtag 54321 tarot what's it called? Do a VR to hashtag 54321 tarot, which was set up by Kelly Bear. I did actually do this video yesterday, and I uploaded it and was messing with it and decided I didn't like it and I wasn't happy with it, so I've scrapped that and I'm starting again. So let's try again. Before I begin the hashtag, just very quickly, I want to show you something. Look at this. I've just been into our local town, do a couple of jobs, have an eye test, and I was in TK Maxx. Not a good plan. And I've just found this most beautiful statuette. It's not precious, it's not, but it's this gorgeous sort of sitting yoga figure with open, can you see the open palms here? And I fell in love. It was only £10. There were some others actually, but I just thought it just called to me because it just felt so peaceful. And I thought I could, you know, it can sit out, but I could also, like, use it. I reckon I could sit a card on her. Look, she could even hold a card. She could be like, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So she's absolutely enormous. I'm sorry you can't see her properly. For £10, she's not heavy either. I mean, if I turn her that way, you can see how, you know, I mean, she's not a small thing when you look at it, but I love her. So anyway, she's going to sit there beside me. So that's just a little aside. Hashtag 54321 tarot. So I'm sure most of you have seen this. It was set up by Kelly Bear. I will link it below. There have been loads of responses to this, and basically the idea is that you choose 5 tarot decks in a category of your choosing. You choose 4 books, 3 tarot spreads to share, 2 bits of tarot tarot stuff, can't say the other word today, paraphernalia, and then the last one is either a piece of advice or a card you want to embody. So let's get started. So 5 tarot decks. I couldn't decide what categories to use, and then I figured what I would do is I would look back. This was going to be a good thing for me to look back at the first 5 tarot decks I bought in. So I started looking and buying decks. I think I'd actually had a tarot deck many years ago as part of a set. But my first conscious purchase of a tarot deck came in 2020, and it was just after the lockdown, and I'd been becoming more absorbed in these in things like yoga and chakras and tarot, and I bought a set of oracle cards, and I then decided I wanted some tarot cards, and the person that I was following at the time, now this was before I saw all the videos on YouTube, but the person I was following had Parallel Worlds, and if you look that up, it's not a deck you see very commonly, and it's a bit unusual. And I knew that I wasn't drawn to that deck, but I did know I was drawn to tarot, so I picked up this tarot deck, which is the Vivid Journey Tarot. Now, I didn't realise that it's actually one that's quite hard to come by now. I just was doing some research, and at the time I was totally unaware of all the different systems. I just saw this one and really liked the pictures, really liked the colours, and it was also a good price. Actually, what it was I bought it online from the same shop, which happened to be the Speaking Tree in Glastonbury, where I bought my original oracle deck. So the Vivid Journey Tarot, well, it's a Llewellyn deck, as you can see, in one of their fantastically ridiculous big boxes. So it has the delightfully thin Llewellyn cardstock, she says, through gritted teeth. I now know that I'm not a big fan of the cardstock. I haven't used this deck for ages. Let me just bring that. I think if I bring I'm going to try and zoom in a bit. There we go. That's, oops, wobbly camera. Sorry, my camera stand is just useless and I'm doing it on my phone. Yeah, I used this a lot when I first got it, when I was sort of started using it, and I was very stuck to guidebooks, but I didn't actually use the guidebook from this. I'll show you in a minute because I've got my first book out. I really like this simplicity. It's very neutral. The colours are lovely. I really like the colours. The symbolisms here, but I didn't realise just how different it actually is in some respects. Your High Priestess, I was really drawn to the Empress card, which is on the front of the box. That was really beautiful. I don't like the Emperor card very much now. At the time it didn't bother me, but I now feel like that isn't how I see the Emperor myself, but that's not a problem. It's a very neutral deck to my extent. It's not a deck where you're going to go, oh, there's a variety of skin colours and diversity and things. But it is done in such a way that it captures the Rider-Waite images. I love that card, sorry. It captures the Rider-Waite in a really simple way, but is also effective. And to be honest, it read really well for me. I remember it reading well. I haven't used it for ages. It's definitely one I probably need to get out again. To me, it's very much a spring summer deck. I love that sun card. Very much a spring summer deck. Each of the suits has a slightly different colour tone. So if you can see, I don't know if you can tell. So here, like all the swords have got this purple cloud. So you get that sense of air. All your wands have got this kind of yellow fiery sun colour. I'm not going to spend ages. Your cups have got very much got the blue, the watery colours, your air for your swords, and then your pentacles have got quite a bit of green in them, which I think is really cool. I really like that. I really like the little characters as well. I really like that Queen of Pentacles actually. Yeah. And so this was my first deck. So I used it for a while. I then, having had that deck, the guidebook isn't fantastic, I have to say. It feels like a really unnecessarily big guidebook for the amount of stuff that's in it, but there we go. It does have some really nice stuff about colour in it, actually, that I need to look at. So then, now, Kelly, please forgive me. I'm going to cheat ever so slightly. It's only a tiny, tiny, tiny little cheat. The next deck I picked up was actually the Everyday Witch Tarot Mini. I was shopping for something online, and I saw it and thought, oh, I'm going to buy it to push up the postage. I had no clue how tiny it was, and that basically it came without any book or anything. It literally was in a little tuck box, and it is tiny. And I loved it. I love the pictures, but I kind of felt like I was missing out because I didn't understand some of the pictures in some respects, and I wanted to know more. So a short while after that, I actually bought the full-size version. So that's why I'm cheating, because in my head, this is the same deck, because ultimately I literally bought this like a couple of days after getting this, realizing that I wanted the book and I wanted the full-size version, so I'm counting this as one. Sorry. So the Everyday Witch Tarot is basically my next tarot deck. I really like this deck. I will pull this deck out for sort of Samhain time shortly, in a few weeks. I haven't used it since. In fact, I don't even think I used it last October, but I like this deck. I actually do have the accompanying Oracle deck. I'm not used that very much at all. I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep that because I don't think it worked for me very well. I like kind of fairly neutral Oracle decks. Anyway, it's not about Oracle, but I love this deck. It's a very popular deck, I know. I like it. I think that it always tends to read very well for me. I find I can read it quite intuitively, which is unusual for me because I really struggle still. I really like the book as well. I like so in the book you get like little phrases. So for Page of Swords, impulsive or intuitive, do you decide? And I find things like that, I don't need to know where I'm going to get there, are really useful as a quick snapshot of a card. I get a lot out of that. Here we go. The world, success and celebration, huzzah. The world is your oyster unless you don't like oysters, in which case it is your hot fudge sundae. And they have like a little thing to consider. I really like the way the book's written, and so I'm really glad that I went. The little mini one is fantastic for keeping in my bag, and I just pull it out to look at the cards. I must pull that bigger one out again for Halloween. The next deck I got was, she says, was the Next World Tarot Pocket. Now, this was an eBay purchase. I happened to see it on eBay. I knew that when I bought it that the previous person had trimmed and edged it, but I didn't know much about it. I was just hunting around on eBay and was drawn to it. I bloody love this deck. Excuse me for swearing. This deck is so cool. It's just so different. I love having the smaller version because I know that the other version is really big. I love there is so much diversity. It's so different to the other decks I have. I haven't used it for ages, but I do love pulling it out and having a look. It has one of my favourites, or emotive, should I say. Let me just see if I can find it. Bear with. Yeah, it has one of my most favourite and emotive lovers cards. Nudity alert. This lovers card holds so much emotion for me. It shows characters who have a body that I feel a kinship to. It has that sense and that challenge of self-love to me, and I think that's really interesting. So I really like that card. Well, I find that a really challenging card, actually. But it's a beautiful, I think it's a fab deck. It's a bit challenging in some cases. Sometimes the cards you're a bit like, oh, I'm not sure about that, but it's meant to be. And I love it. I keep it in a little bag that had something else and it fits nicely. I do have the little book that came with it. The book just doesn't fit very nicely in the bag, so it's separate. So that was a bit of a challenge because that was completely different, but always reads really well. Then I went on a bit of a divergence. So in my head, I suddenly decided I needed to get a Lenormand deck and learn Lenormand. I could barely read tarot, and it remains the case that my tarot reading is very beginner, should we say. So I went off to buy a Lenormand, and I came across the Anna K Lenormand. Found her website, her own website, and then next thing I know, I bought the Anna K Tarot, which I still have. So this is the independent, not the I'm just going to put another light on. This is the independent version, not the mass market version. I have actually nearly decluttered this a couple of times because it shouts at me, this deck. I like the size again. I like the cardstock. I love the High Priestess in this deck. I think it's a really beautiful card. Oh dear, sorry, my camera work is appalling. So I love that card. I think the Devil's quite good fun. I love how this deck has an element of humour as well as sensitivity to it. I'm not sure I like all the cards. I don't like that Lover's card. I don't like the faces. Some of the faces I'm not a big fan of. And so this deck is kind of hit and miss because, oh, it's all in a mess, sorry. I really like some of the cards. I love that World card as well. I really like some of the stuff about it. But then a couple of the times when I've used it, it really has shouted at me. And when I say shouted, it's basically, yeah, it gets angry. I don't know. Yeah. But I did and ah about decluttering it and moving it on. And then I stopped myself, and I don't know why. I think maybe later in the year, kind of when it's a bit more wintry, it feels a very wintry deck to me. I'll give it another go, and if not, I might well move it on because I'd rather it was being used. And I'm not sure, I've got others now that have maybe taken its place. But anyway, so that was the next deck I got, and that was challenging because it was sort of, I wasn't sure about it. The next deck, the fifth deck I'm going to show you. So the fifth deck. So this was the next deck I ordered. It's not the next deck technically that came in. I kind of try and keep track of when I order decks and when I get them in. But this basically, I suppose, was the next deck I came across, and that's this Labyrinth Tarot. So this is one of the Titan books one, not Insight Editions. Labyrinth is one of my all-time favourite films, absolute favourite film. So when I saw there was going to be a Labyrinth Tarot deck, I immediately put a pre-order in. Actually, I'm quite lucky because in the UK, there's a shop where they tend to have these fandom decks at a better price than some of even Amazon. So it was a few months before I got it, though. It was actually didn't come to me until about 3 or 4 months, even 6 months after I pre-ordered. So I then used it quite a lot, then quite way after. This was my first real kind of pip challenge deck. This was the first deck where I really had to start kind of working with less illustrated minors. But I found that this reads really well. It goes nicely with my kind of aesthetic. The fact that I love the film and I can understand the concepts of the film probably helps, because I really understand some of the cards from that perspective. I understand sort of why Hoggle's the Hierophant to a certain extent, and I kind of feel like if you don't know the film, maybe... So I'm not drawn to, for example, things like Stranger Things or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm not drawn to those decks because I don't know the characters and I don't know the films, whereas this one I do. So this was the fifth deck. I ordered. Technically didn't come in for a few months, but we'll let that go. I used that quite a lot, actually, the other year. I haven't used it for a while because other decks have come in. What I probably need to do is work my way back through some of these. So anyway, as usual, I'm going on for hours. 5 decks. So that's basically the first 5 decks that came in or that I ordered. What's next? 4 books. Okay, so for books, I have just a random selection, really. I've got the first book. I bought the first tarot book. So before I bought a tarot deck, I was doing some work with somebody and I actually bought this book. This is the Tina Gong from Labyrinthos book. In the America, it comes as a set with the cards. In the UK, I bought this separately. At the time, it was on offer in, I think, in the works, so I got it for a good price. I bloomin' love this book. I haven't used it for ages, but it has most fantastic spreads. I tell you what I love about this book is the way the cards are done. So you get some keywords, and usually the keywords are fit quite well with me. But they also have this lovely bit about reflection and action. So if a card comes up and if you're just doing a 1-card pull, you can actually take some action on that card, which I think is really nice. So it works quite nicely if you're just maybe doing a 1-card pull, I think. It also has all these real life readings, so it kind of, you can see how cards are working in a spread, which, to be honest, I actually read this pretty thoroughly when I first got it, and I haven't. It has a lovely bit here, for example, on numerology, on the conscious, the unconscious. It's really nice laid out, actually. To be honest, I quite like to get the Labyrinthos decks, a couple of their decks, and also their workbook, but you can't easily get them in the UK without spending a fortune on postage. I think I might keep that book out for a bit, but you can see it was really well used at the time. I've labelled it up. So that's Tarot by Tina Gong. I'd recommend that book. I think it's really nice, and I got this before I got Tarot Bible or anything else. And I think in some ways that's why I actually find, this is going to sound awful, but I actually struggle with the Rider-Waite imagery and the Rider-Waite. It was only after getting a couple of decks and getting more involved in TarotTube that I then started to explore more about the history of cards. And then I picked this up, and this was a book, I think probably the next book I got, to be honest. I picked this up dirt cheap online, literally for a couple of quid on eBay. I knew nothing about it. I just thought, oh, this looks interesting. Paid a couple of pounds for it. And you know what? It's really good. I sat and read it. It's now falling apart, which is not helpful. But I read it, I made notes on it. And what I quite like is, as a reference book, I like the fact, so for example here, what he does, he looks at the history, so you understand about the history of the cards, you understand where the original characters come from, and then it talks about here interpretations at different levels. So for example, here you've got a Christian interpretation, and then you've got the Golden Dawn, the spirit of ether, foolish man, idea, spirituality, that which endeavours to rise above the material. Then you've got the weight. So you can actually go right back to 1750, where you look at the original cartomancer meaning of madness. And I think that's really good. I think so. Let's have a look at... I don't know. So you've got the world here, and also they've got all these different pictures. And then it talks here, so like what weight, and I think that's really, and then he gives like a suggested one. But that's kind of nice, and the more I've begun to understand the cards, and obviously it references, you've got your Marseille style versus your weight style, so you can see like here, it says it's stuff about old deacons, it's got all sorts of stuff in it, and if I'm perfectly honest now, it's one I need to come back to, because the more I'm understanding, the more I want to know more. It's got bits about different tarot in, where to buy your cards, about the illustrations. It's got a whole bibliography if you want to spend 3 years reading. So this is actually, and I was really lucky to get it quite cheap. It is, as I say, it has decided to start falling apart. But I must come back to this. I found this really interesting, and it gave me a better grounding in what was going on. So that's my first book. Another book that I've not looked at for a while that I think is really cool. I did my first 5 decks. I'm going to do the last book I picked up, which I'm quite excited to get going with. This was another bargain on eBay, Tarot on Earth by Tom Benjamin. This is a book that is recommended. It's secondhand. This is somebody else's list, which I think is very cool. This is a book that's recommended for getting an understanding of the Marseille and doing a lot of work on numerology. So I haven't read it yet. I haven't gone diving in, but I'm really looking forward to giving this a go. So this is a book that I am going to give a go. I think I've got too many books like that, but never mind. The last book is a book that I don't see very often. Tea Break Tarot School. So Fiona Phillips, she had another name on Instagram and YouTube, and she's not posting at the moment, and I can't remember her name, but never mind. She did this thing called the Tea Break Tarot School Tarot, and she did it as like YouTube or podcasts, and she was doing a tarot school blog, that's right, on her website, and was sort of teaching tarot, and she then basically published like these in the book, and the idea is that they're very short snippets. So basically, look, you know, if you're boiling a kettle for a cup of tea, you can read about, for example, the Hierophant. You can get some things to reflect on, which I really like. She doesn't go into like in sort of long extended written detail about the cards. She actually kind of gives some very simple descriptions, so how she sees the card, what the reflection's been, where her learnings come from, and then some reflection. And what I then did, actually, when I was going through, I was looking at Lisa Papez's basic tarot learning course. Can't remember what it's called, but I made notes in here to match, and then used another deck that I was writing on to put the stuff down. So this is a little book that, if you can get a hold of it, I think is really nice. I think it's a lovely little book. It gives you another way of looking. Like, so here, for example, 9 of Swords, it talks about what it's about. So obviously a bit of a nightmare card, Night Before the Dawn. Practicum, what would they tell you? So it talks about here, for example, practice body awareness. What sensations do you have? Try a grounding exercise found in open space. How do you ground yourself when thoughts are racing? So I think it's really nice. So that's a book I'd recommend having a look at, particularly if you're like me and you want something kind of with suggested ways of looking at the cards. So that is my 4 tarot books for you. What's next? 3 spreads. So spreads is something that I'm still working on, to be honest. But some of the spreads that I use more than once. So I have done a few deck interview spreads when I've come across a deck and want to get know more about it. I have then, so Anna Kay has had one, Everyday Witch has had one, but later on I started off with a spread. Now I apologise, I found all these online and I can't say where I got them. I started off with this spread that had 6 cards, and I actually found this a bit too much. I was really struggling to, but I liked the idea of the interview. I then, this one's Tarotita, found this slightly more, so this was kind of, what are you here to teach me? What are your strengths? This one is much more about what's your energy, what is it to me. I found this a bit better, so I started using this. So a nice deck interview spread. Lots of people use different ones. I like the sort of something which, this particular one, it's like, what's the energy, what can I learn about myself, and how are you going to help me? You know, what could you help me become? And then actually a message for right now. So you could do it again once you've worked with a deck. You could do it if you were trying to decide whether to clear a deck. I found some of the questions on this harder to interpret, although I did use it. You can see actually I interviewed a deck and then I've just crossed it out because I've sold it. So I quite like that little spread. Another spread. What am I on? Is it 3 spreads, isn't it? Oh heck. Another spread that I quite like doing. So this is like a journaly book that I started, and you can see for ages it was great, and then it hasn't been for a long time. It kind of goes from October to November 21, and then it dives away. So in the last year or so, I quite liked this spread I found a couple of years ago. I can't remember where I got it. I'm sorry, it was online. Someone did a spread called the Frost Spread. And it's a 3-card spread designed to be done sort of in the winter. And I like it because I really like pulling an oracle card as an energy card to see what the energy is, and using the tarot cards to place that energy. So in this one, you pull the oracle card, which is what the energy is now, and then you put a tarot card which is about releasing, a tarot card which is becoming. So where am I frozen? Where is there a candle burning and what's thawing? And then what else is going on that I need to be aware of? I quite liked when I did this spread. It was quite nice at the time. I found it really appropriate when I used it. So that's a nice, and I'm using this as an example because I like doing that. I like having an oracle card almost as the start rather than the other way around. So I will pull an oracle card. So let's take something like my Goddess Dream here. I might pull, so this is I'm just going to put an oracle card. I know this is tarot, but that's because, so I might pull an oracle card like this. So this is Insight, Be Open to Enchantment. I might then use the tarot cards around it to, you know, see what I need to be open to. So maybe what do I need let go of to be open to that? So do I need to let go of material things? Is there a beginning here? What's going, you know, what do I need? What could happen in the longer run? So got some feather. I hate this now when I'm doing this online, but you know, you've got 6 of feathers. Feathers is air, so air is swords. So thoughts, actions, partway through. So there is the opportunity to kind of do something, generate some ideas, some thoughts, but what else is going on underneath? So we've got the Dancers instead of the Lovers. So actually there's kind of some relationships to work out here, and actually I can see that because it Be Open to Enchantment, Insight, like for me at the moment, I know that I'm being held back by material stuff. I'm being held back by a bit of chaos. I need to generate some ideas. I could do that, but I need to kind of use the relationships around me to help me, which will give me more insight, I think. Anyway, so I quite like doing that idea, kind of using this as an energy. I like, you can do it as a story type of thing. So I like a spread like that. I also like a simple one card pull, but if I'm just doing a one card pull, I quite like a deck which has a little bit more energy about it. So if I was going to do a one card pull, I would either do it, might do it from I quite like doing it from decks that give me something more. So the guidebook gives me like an affirmation, or the deck itself has some keywords on. And then for a new deck, I'd probably use some kind of interview spread just to get used to that deck. To be honest, I haven't done that much lately, which is part of the problem. Is that right? Yes. Sorry if I've not done that right. Tarot Paraphernalia. Well, I thought I'd share my little tincture bells. So I like sound, I like music, so I got these a couple of years ago as a way of cleansing cards and energy. I love these, just sit, and in fact I probably need to use them more. So my little bells are there, and then I suppose I go in for a lot of stuff like crystals and stuff, but cloths. If a campaign has a cloth with it, if I am doing a Kickstarter and I can get a cloth add-on, I quite like that. I've got a couple of nice cloths that way. I'm always on the lookout for sort of new ones to put down. For me, that's partly because the spaces I work in when I'm doing card pulls and learning and tarot have other uses. So if I put a cloth like this down, it converts what is my desk into my learning and tarot space. So I have tarot cloth. Last 54321, advice or card to embody. You do you, is what I would say. I have got a really fed up with I got really wrapped up when I first started in the concept of, well, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do it this way and you have to do it that way and you have to, you know, always shuffle the cards like this, or always pass them through incense, or always do this, or always do that. And then it was like, no, you can't use the book, or you can't be a proper reader if you don't use the book, and I get really fed up with that. And my gut instinct is, you know, I love the artwork of these tarot cards. I love being in the community. I love having something to fix on and to learn. But I'm really put off by people who gatekeep or who tell me how it should or shouldn't be done. I like the refreshment of how people... I was watching someone new the other week, and I'm never going to watch them again, because I watched a video where they basically told everyone that a list of things that you have to do to be able to start reading and learning tarot. And it was all things like, you know, you must knock the cards 3 times, and then they also said something else that was completely false. And I thought, you know, you are, yeah, anyway, it's not someone big in the community, and they're not going to be, because they don't feel right. But yeah, I would just, I'm waffling, I'm sorry. My biggest thing would be, you do you. Do things how you want. Don't let people force you. And if that's an opinion people don't like, just walk away from my video. I don't want a load of hate messages. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So, 5 tarot decks, 4 tarot books, 3 spreads-ish, 2 bits of paraphernalia, and a bit of advice. Callie, this was a really interesting tag, because actually it was quite challenging because it was so open. But it was really, I've really enjoyed joining in with everyone in the community, and I hope people appreciate watching it. And I'm gonna go, so I'll see you all soon. Bye.